I think sometimes advisors are afraid to ask certain questions because they think that the person is actually going to be offended, or they're going to start saying, why would you ask me that? Or you're getting too personal, right? But a lot of that goes into building trust, because if the student feels as if you trust them, it doesn't matter what you ask. And it's the way that you ask also. I always tell advisors, if you want to get somebody to open up, ask why. Why is that? You know, when you think of like a child, everything they're like, why, how come? And you're like, but it's forcing you to keep answering the question, right? It's the same thing with our students, no matter how mature or how young they are. If you ask why, it's forcing them to go, wait a minute, I never even thought about why. And now they start to dig, and all you do is sit back and take notes.
In that order, period. And it's so true. I'm glad that you said, you highlighted that, because that also, when they're talking and you're repeating that stuff back, that gives them an opportunity to hear what they're saying. Some people don't even hear themselves. You know what I mean?
Nope.
You know, they don't even know what they're saying, but you asking them has to make them think and be like, you know what? You know, based upon what you're telling me, you sound like you're so tired of being in this same place, and you want your children to have something better. Man, I want to, look, I'm going to help you. You know, and they're going to be like, yeah, help me. You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm so glad that you highlighted that, because they need to hear. They need to hear them.
Yep. It's that recap, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the recap, that's your opportunity to showcase that you were listening. Okay. And I think where a lot of advisors go less, they think the recap is a regurgitation of everything that the student says. And sometimes when you're listening and they're like, so you attended school in 1926, and then you didn't finish that. So you went and got your GED, and then you went to this school to take this, and then that school, and then your daughter's 5 years old. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything that is causing the student to want to make a change right now? I always say highlight when you hear something good, because what I'm thinking is, when you think of a script and gathering information, you need to think of some things that you can use when this person starts to disappear. When they enroll for the program, and then all of a sudden you texting them about their financial aid appointment, and you hearing nothing but dial tone, silence. You need to be able to go back to your notes and go, what is their situation? Why did they need this in the first place? Boom. And then leave that on their voicemail.
That is waking them up. That is so good. That is, oh guys, I hope you are hearing that. That is so good. Because that's what I was going to talk about in the closing. In the closing, that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving them back what they gave you. You're letting them know that you heard them. You know what I mean? You're even telling students, bring your kid, whatever the case may be. You're reiterating that bond. You're making sure that they're telling you back that they're not, you know, because I told you our students they like to fib a little bit. So, you know, if they're not saying the things back that you would have, they said to you, you can say, well, that's the time to even say, look, you don't sound like you're being serious. I'm so 100% with them. I'm like, look, keep it 100. You know, you got to be able to bond with them where they are on their level. You know what I mean? And it's so important from beginning to end to remain in that bond, remain getting them to talk. If that takes you off course for a second, sometimes you got to go off for a second. You don't have to do 30 minutes of tangent, but you do need to address what you hear, because that's going to make you stand out from the zillions of schools that are calling them, telling them that they need to come in and see them. What makes you different? There needs to be a specific type of thing that you do with that student over the phone that they don't hear anywhere else.
Yep. You know, I love that you said that sometimes you may have to stay on the topic and kind of go off for a minute or two, because I think sometimes advisors get lost in the process, but they're not really focused on the prospect. So they're talking to people, and these students are like really spilling out some really crazy stuff. You got people in the hospital. Some of them have been in abusive situations. Some of them are going through depression. And because the advisor is so focused on, I got to get through the script, I got to make sure I don't miss a point, the empathy is out the window. Right? Good. So how do you think the student feels when they just talk about, you know, this is what I really need to do, and I'm at my wit's end, and I feel as if you're my last resort, for the advisor to sit there and go, okay, so where are you working right now?
Out.
smack.
Out.
Sometimes you have to hear something and say, all right, I need to stay on this topic for a little bit. I need to handle this situation. Even when it comes to people who say, you know, I've been to like 5 different schools. The answer to that is not like, okay, so why are you ready now? No, we need to focus on those 5 schools. You've been to 5 schools and you didn't complete any of them. Let's talk about that for a little bit. What was going on? Were you trying to find, you know, the best program for you? Was it something that was going on personally where you had to keep moving? You got to stay on a topic. If you feel something, say something.
Yep.
And then you could always move on. And that's why you need some type of guide so that after you go off, you can just glance at your paper and go, all right, so this is what I need to jump back into next.
And you could not have said that more perfectly. It's so important because, you know, back in the day, if, you know, for those of you who have been in the industry a long time, you know, we had the 5, 7, 8 minute rule. Yep. And I get it. It should be within that amount of time. But listen, we're dealing with special people. It's different times. You have a lot going on in the world and people don't have any time to vent a little bit, address the situation. And then I wanted to say one more thing. For those of you who have to do the whole interview and everything online, bonding is going to be the only way you're going to have thoughts that really, really stick because you're not seeing students in person. You know, a lot of students are doing things online. So if they're doing things online, your bond game got to be tight. You got to be a counselor. You got to be a little bit of a therapist, just a little bit. For those of you who are, you know, 100% online, this is not for my people that are coming in, you know what I mean? But for those of you that are online and that's the only way that you're able to connect with the student, your bonding game has to be 100% on point because they can't come in and see you. No. They got to feel you. They got to connect with you, you know, so that's very, very super important.
I love that you brought up online because here's what's happening too. You have some schools who still haven't transitioned back into going into the campus, especially depending on the type of program that you have. Some owners have gotten to the point where they're like, oh, we can roll with this because it's been working, you know, because we don't have any hands-on programs. So when you're talking about a ground campus, you may have some advisors who may be able to wing it because once they get into the campus, sometimes the school sells itself, right? So as you're walking around, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, these students look like they're having an amazing time. You have the opportunity to look at a student and you can look at their body language and you have the opportunity to say, are you okay? Because you look a little confused or you seem as if you didn't really catch what I just, you know, explained. But when you're online, 100% of that is going to be in the questions you ask, your tone, your voice inflection, and you're going to have to be able to pick up those nonverbal cues, you know, so even if you hear silence, you're listening to pure silence, that's a red flag. Okay, what's going on? Because you were talking a lot in the beginning of this call and now all of a sudden you're not saying anything. Talk to me. What's going on in your mind? Let me know. You have to be more upfront when it comes to talking to students online because like you said, you don't have the school that can sell this for you. It's all about you and your personality and building trust and getting that person to understand, you know what? I think Kat is the one. I really feel her energy and I think she's going to be able to help me get to the next level. Thank you so much for bringing up online schools.
Absolutely.